It's what marketing should look
Yeah.
like. It's exactly like they target it well. It was a good product
They do.
and they delivered on their
Yeah.
promise. If we all did that, shit would be much better, in my opinion.
That's right. Promo UPFront, money in the pick, the bullet, a full podcast.
Hot town, somewhere in the city, back of my neck feeling dirty and gritty. And that is exactly, precisely the way we have to start off episode number 213 of the Promo UPFront podcast. I am one of your hosts, Bill Petrie. With me, as always, let's call him the captain of clickbait, the one and only Kirby Hasseman. Kirby, how the hell are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Just trying to kind of hustle through July. July historically is pretty slow for us, but I've been working pretty hard to kind of keep activity going. So things are going well. But yeah, man, things are all right. How about you?
Good. Things are good. Like the opening song said, and I think this is a repeat song. I think I sang it a year or two ago, but
Okay.
that's okay. It is enormously hot outside. We're in that time period of Nashville where it is warm, usually somewhere in the mid 90s, which isn't terrible in and of itself. But then you add the oppressive humidity and the dew
Yeah.
points around 77, 80%, and it is just oppressive. But I just don't want to, you got to think big. You got to think
Right.
about the big picture and falls on the way. And, thinking big, that got me to be thinking of something else, Kirby, as
Okay.
things often do. We all know that the promotional products industry is almost entirely made up of small businesses. Now, while occasionally there's going to be growth and succession plans for those small businesses, a good portion of these businesses really need help when it comes to achieving their organizational goals. And that's where the experts over at Certified Marketing Consultants come in. They specialize in acquisition services. They'll
Mhm.
work with you to develop the right strategy. They also specialize in business valuations.
Mhm.
They'll help you establish the value of your business so you can maximize it. And probably what they're known for most, private company sales. They truly help organizations navigate the oftentimes confusing process of selling a business to the right buyer. Now,
Mhm.
Kirby, I'm not sure about you, but I'm personally glad that there's a company like Certified Marketing Consultants. I'm glad they're around because those are some really valuable services we probably don't spend enough time thinking about in this industry.
Oh, I agree 100%. I think we're living in a time where buying and selling businesses is really interesting, and having
Mhm.
experts like Jamie and the team over there
Mhm.
is really interesting, because I think most of us, unless you've gone through the exercise, you don't really understand what the asset is worth. And having
Yeah.
someone who's not emotionally attached to it, who can really guide you, can really make a very tough process a little bit easier.
Yeah. I think they make it a lot easier. And Kirby, I can't believe you do this every week. It's amazing to me. I thought I could say it better than you. And then I listened to what you say, and I realized I couldn't have said it any better myself. Now, with decades of industry experience and countless transactions under their collective belts, Jamie Watson and the experts at Certified Marketing Consultants are ready to work with you, and they're going to do it with full strict confidence. They'll do that confidentially. So if you're looking to buy a company to bolster your growth, or maybe sell the one you have to maximize your return, email Certified Marketing Consultants at info@certifiedmarketing.com, or you can even give them a call, 260-637-6643. You're not going to be sorry you did. Now, Kirby, uh, I have the upfront portion of the podcast today,
Mhm.
and sometimes I dawdle, sometimes I drag my feet. This time I'm not going to do that. I'm
Okay.
getting right into it. So we've said this before, we are not the acquisition podcast of record, but this one jumped off at me, and maybe not for the reason you think. And I
Okay.
know you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It was the announcement earlier this week that Maple Ridge Farms, our friends over there, Jody Schillinger and Tom Riordan, and such great people over there,
Yeah.
have acquired Sweeter Cards. Stacy Stahl has been very much an upstart part of the Rupt investment portfolio. I'm sure I'm going to speak for you and probably everybody, judging by what I saw on social media. I can't think of a more perfect fit. And
Mhm.
so that's one aspect of it. I'm excited for Stacy. I'm excited for Maple Ridge Farms. I don't know if you know this, it's their first acquisition in the 45-year history of Maple Ridge Farms. I think it's a match made in heaven. I want to get your impressions on that, but then I want to talk about a different aspect of it, if that's okay with you.
Sure, of course. Yeah. So I saw this come across, and I can't remember if it was an email or on social media I saw first, but I think email. And I literally, out loud, I went, "Whoa!"
Yeah,
Like it immediately hit me. And usually when
yeah,
things like that do, I'm like, I thought about forwarding you the email and saying, "Hey, this is a big deal," but then I was like,
yeah,
he does not need me to do that. He will see that as well. I
yeah.
agree with you. I thought it did make a ton of sense. And then in
Mhm.
reading the articles about like when Jody talked about adding a $20
Yeah,
price point, it really fit with those together.
yeah,
And honestly, the other piece that is interesting to me is just the culture piece, because I think when
yeah,
I think of Stacy and I think of the gang over at Maple Ridge,
yeah,
both groups, I'm like, oh, really
yeah,
good, kind people. And when that sort of thing happens, I think that's because we've all seen um, pairings, partnerships where you're like, well, that
yeah,
person I like and that person I'm not
yeah,
so sure about. So we'll see
yeah.
how that goes. This was one that I right away was like, oh yeah, that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, 100%. Couldn't agree with I agree with everything you just said. And I love the pairing. I love, Jody's so wonderful and
Mhm.
Stacy's so wonderful. And I think that's like I said, a match made in heaven. When I read the press release, and I got it via email as well, when I read the press release, there's something that really jumped off at me.
Mhm.
We talk, we talk a lot about how for as long as I can remember, this has been, for the most part, a male dominated industry,
Mhm. Mhm.
a white male dominated
Mhm.
industry.
Sure.
Um, what jumped off at me was Tom Riordan basically said, hey, this was completely spearheaded by Jody.
Mhm.
Basically, Tom didn't have anything to do with it. I love the fact that he gave Jody full credit for initiating the contact with Stacy and really kind of making everything happen. I think there's always those opportunities, especially when we have a marginalized group, which sometimes women can be, especially in a male dominated industry, where someone like Tom, who is the owner of the business, makes it a point to say she did this, and so that jumped off at me again. I just love that. I love when people recognize other people. I don't care if they're black, white, male, female. I just like when
Yeah.
people recognize when greatness recognizes greatness. I always stand up and kind of clap my hands.
Yeah.
I didn't actually do that yesterday, but metaphorically in my head, I sure did. Yes. So, uh, I've always loved the way Jody thinks about things. She's an
Mhm.
exceptionally bright, intelligent person, very engaging. She's the whole package, and for her to lead this really gave my heart some joy. So I
Yeah.
really, really love that.
Yeah, and just to add to it, and again, is when you hear this, it so obviously Stacy won the pitch. It was
Yep.
announced that she was a part of the Rupt group, and then
Yep.
Jason Lukash came out
Yeah.
and was posting about how he was
Oh
happy
yeah.
that this made sense too. So it was, I
Yeah.
just thought everybody a part of it really handled it super well. It was cool.
It seemed like it was truly every aspect of it just fell into place. Right people, right place, right time.
Yeah.
Hey, Kirby. Have you heard the big news?
Uh, I don't know.
Well, Promocations has dropped their
Okay.
2025 event schedule. That's right. The fourth promo cruise is sailing from Tampa to Puerto Costa Maya in Mexico. That's March 9th through the 16th,
Awesome.
2025. And Promocations launching the first land based event. That would be a Promocation in Los Cabos, Mexico, at an all inclusive 5-star resort. That's July 13th through July 17th. Now, every Promocations event has first class accommodations, all inclusive pricing, and I gotta say, it's easily the best networking in the industry. So, if you want to learn how you can be part of the next Promocations event, whether it's a promo cruise or a promocation, go over to promocations.com. I think we could both say you won't be sorry you did.
You will not be sorry you did. It's that those events are awesome.
All right, Kirby, do you have a topic for us?
Yeah, I think this will be it goes well with the idea of travel, right? So we talk about
Okay.
promotions.
Yeah.
I assume you saw this. I am a Southwest flyer most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
I travel in other areas when it's appropriate, but Southwest is sort of my go-to. I assume you saw that goodbye open seating, right? So
I
Southwest
did.
made an
Yeah.
abrupt decision to end open seating, and they're leaving their two free check bags policy, but the open seating went away. It's fascinating because in some ways you're like, okay, that was one of the things that was a hallmark of Southwest, um, but I think that they're looking at it as a way to probably charge for specific seats so that it's a way for them to increase profit. Um, and I have some opinions about this, but I know you've been flying Southwest more over the last couple of years. And so when I saw this, I was like, I wonder what Bill thinks about this idea of getting rid of open seating.
I think it's kind of exactly what you said. It's a cash grab.
Mhm.
They've, what is kind of, I don't want to say swept under the rug, but kind of an, oh, by the way, they posted their lowest profits on a quarter in about 5 years.
Yeah, sure.
So it is to me a cash grab. I have some serious thoughts, but not serious, but I have some hard thoughts about this. One, I think it's a mistake. I think it's
Mm.
a colossal mistake. Um, Mainly for the reason when, one of the things we talk about so much, I know I talk about a lot, I know you do, is differentiation.
Mhm.
And very rarely when you're the last one to the party, which basically they would be, I'm taking away the Frontiers and the Spirits because that's net, those don't even qualify as airlines. But of a major airline, they would be the last one to have assigned seating.
Mhm.
That's rarely a strategy for success, in my
Mm.
opinion. I would be, so I know that of course they want to grow, they want to increase revenue. I think it takes away that differentiation. So
Mhm.
that is a bit of an issue, and I think it's going to cause a lot of friction with passengers. Of now, I've got to pay. Or there are some friction points in the Southwest process. For example, when I buy early bird, and I generally do because I want to make sure I have overhead space. I want to make sure I don't have a middle seat. I don't like being assigned to the B group. That really irritates me when that happens.
Right.
Um, I think when you mess with the seating, that would bother people. I think they would be better off saying, we're going to give you one bag for free. The second bag is going to cost you, or even just charge for luggage. That would make more sense to me in terms of not changing the model.
Right.
But they got to do what they do got to do. Now, I have a prediction on this. I think it lasts 6 to 12 months, much like New Coke, and I think they go back to open seating
Mm.
because I don't think this general Southwest customer really wants that. I think that's my opinion.
Yeah,
I would
no,
love to hear yours.
I, and again, I wanted to hear what you had to say about it. I,
Mm-hmm.
I, I have mixed feelings about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think so I just booked a flight, and so I'll be curious to
Yeah.
see. They didn't ask me to pick a seat on this one, so we'll see when it
Yeah.
kicks in, and
Oh,
B,
it kicks in. It kicks in. I do know when it kicks in. They're gonna have to change some of the configurations of the planes,
yeah,
and it kicks in like right around Valentine's Day, is my
okay, so we got
understanding
some
of
time.
2025.
Yeah,
Yep.
so I'll be curious to see what they charge, right? Like that's
Me
really
too.
what it boils down to me is like because there are already the opportunity to like pay for the early
Hmm.
boarding or whatever,
Early
which
bird.
I
Yep.
don't do
Hmm.
historically. Um, and I go back and forth all the time about it. And one of the reasons that you're doing that is because you're like, oh, I want to make sure I don't get a middle seat, or I want to make sure that I do this. Well, if you have an assigned seat, then you're not. I might be willing to pay for the lack of worrying about where I'm going to be. So that actually, I as a customer was like, oh, okay, yeah, then I don't have to worry about that. That doesn't bother me too bad. Again, pending what they're charging me, right? Like to do it. And so because I think it's like the normal Southwest client, you're right. Like I'm used to it. And it's like when they go, okay, now it's B gets up and you find where you're supposed to stand every time I'm on a flight, people don't understand that at all. And so the whole thing
Oh,
has
they
to be
yeah.
re-explained And
Oh,
so
they make no mistake, they understand it. They just don't want to adhere to it.
no, they don't understand it, dude.
All right.
I'm watching people like completely not know where to go. What do you mean? What's like? And so
Yeah.
yes, there are people who don't want to adhere to it, but trust me, I am watching people who are completely oblivious. So the idea of just going, okay, so I've got a window seat and it's da da da. Okay, cool. So but I do understand where you're coming from. It is a point of differentiation, but I actually had a tiny little piece of okay, so I get to know where I'm going to sit without. Then I can just sit and chill until it's time to get on the plane.
I think it just kind of branches off a little bit. I think, what I don't like about it is the continual upsell, the continual
Yeah, I
nickel and
agree.
diming.
Yeah.
And I really feel as a society, we are really at a tipping point of all this. I
Mhm.
prefer personally all in pricing.
Yeah.
This is what it costs, and that's it.
Yeah. Which is what
I
Southwest
don't
did, right? Like that's what they
That's
had.
correct. And so
Yeah.
they're moving away from that. And to me, the second you ask people to pay for things that they didn't have to before,
Yeah. It's
because
tough.
there's some magic. What's great about Southwest right now
Right.
is that there's some magic that if you uh, are fortunate enough to get an early, you check in, let's say you don't do early bird, so you check in on your
Yeah.
own 24 hours in advance, and you get an early A boarding group, and you get that magical seat with the ridiculous shit, the ridiculous leg room. That's amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Sorry, I just spilled my coffee all over my computer and
Yeah.
everything.
Sorry, dude.
No, it's okay. So making me a little tense, but we'll clean it up later.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah, you're
but
right though.
there's something magical about having all of that.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
something magical about having all that. I just keep going. I'm going to listen. I'm just going to get a towel, clean this
Yeah,
up.
absolutely. Well, so one of the
Go
things
ahead.
that Bill was just talking about was the idea of how there is a magic to getting in 24 hours before and still getting that a boarding group. And I think what it is I'm a little bit slow, but I never seem to get that magic. Like so I'll literally the time will turn over and I click on the button. This happened actually in Vegas while I was with Jade getting ready to fly back. And I stood in the hallway before I went into the show and hit the button. I think it was at 10:37 or whatever it was. And I was literally 24 hours before I hit it. And I was in B47. I hit it the moment that I could. And I will say that that's the kind of thing that I actually find you mentioned friction. That's actually a point of friction for me. And I find it irritating. And back to the idea is I'd just rather know where I'm going to sit. And I find some comfort in that. And like I
I
actually
get that.
I flew Allegiant recently in a really quick round
Right.
trip. And the
Ooh.
upselling was annoying, but it
Yeah.
was literally like a 45-minute flight. But
Right.
there was a tiny piece of me that was like, okay, so I already know where I'm sitting. Cool. I'm good. That's
Right.
it.
And
So
again,
there was, yeah,
I do get all that. I get all that. All right, Kirby, good cop. I actually thought about that topic. And again, from a branding perspective, I just
yeah,
don't,
yeah. I love
to
it.
me,
Yeah.
if you're messing with your brand too much. All right, Kirby, let's talk about marketing clickbait, shall
Okay.
we?
Yeah. Let's.
So at ASI Chicago last week, of course, I ran into quite a few people we both know, and I was having a drink with David Schultz,
Mhm.
and I put my sunglasses in my pocket, and he goes, "Where'd you get those?" I goes, "Hold on a second." He pulls out sunglasses, and they were the same exact sunglasses from a company I didn't know anybody had heard of called WMP and all that. So we quickly found out same Facebook ad. We
Mm,
both saw the same Facebook ad and
love
both
it.
pulled the trigger on that on those glasses. So then I'm talking to David. We're laughing about this. He goes, "You know what's funny? Brian Porter from our good friend over at Starline has a sport coat that he and David both bought because of a Facebook ad,
Love
and they
it.
have to now coordinate to make sure you're not wearing that, right? I'm not wearing that, right? All those
Mhm.
things. So then you just kind of put that aside, and then I'm
Okay.
I'm sitting there at the bar with again David Schultz and John Norris from Hit walks up and he says, "That those shoes, Gatsby's. I was wearing He goes, "Hey, are those Gatsby's?" I said, "They are," and he said, "Facebook, right?" I'm like, "Yeah,"
Yeah.
and so I guess it's not a question of does marketing clickbait work. I think we can clearly say it does. But I wanted to get your impression on not necessarily why it works, but what do you think the efficacy of that is long term? I have
Um,
thoughts, but I'd like to hear yours.
yeah, so I guess so. I don't know that, at least for me on this particular, um, when I think of clickbait, I think
Yeah.
of the term where it's like they've given you a headline and then it's not really, the story's actually
Right.
not really what you clicked for. So it's like,
Right.
so clickbait in my
Yeah.
mind is a negative term. So just,
Sure.
yeah,
This is just marketing
yeah,
clickbait. I mean, the
yeah,
algorithms and all that. But go ahead.
yes.
Yes. You
But
you you have
I
you
understand
make
what
a
you're
good
saying.
point.
Because yeah, what is the efficacy of it long term? I think it is
Yeah.
a really, this shoe. I actually got it
Yep.
in black first,
Yep.
because I thought in scrolling by it, it was targeted to me, and I thought
Yeah.
it was a really sharp looking shoe. And I'm not the
Right.
shoe guy that you are, right? But I showed it
Right.
to Amy.
You are not.
I got it. I wore it in Vegas, and it was like, man, this
Hmm.
thing's really comfortable. It's one of the ways that they
Yeah.
advertised it, and they were
Yeah.
really affordable. And so, from my
Yeah.
perspective, it was a really well run ad that had a good product that I like. What's the
Yeah.
efficacy of that? It's what marketing should look
Yeah.
like. It's exactly like they target it well. It was a good product,
They do.
and they delivered on their
Yeah.
promise. If we all did that, shit would be much better, in my opinion.
So here, I agree with everything you just said. Here's something that did start to stick with me, though,
Okay.
especially with the sunglasses. I had seen these sunglasses, and I'm like, I haven't seen sunglasses like that from anyone else. And
Mhm.
I really think I'm going to like those. And I do. They fit well on my face. I get compliments when I wear them. And I'm fine that David Schultz has them. Couldn't care less who else
Yeah, that's
has them.
great.
But the one thing that I thought about was, is this what felt very individual is not.
Mm.
So it's almost not, I wouldn't say stripping away my ability to be an individual, but it did take a hit there. It's like, okay, I'm not as special finding these cool sunglasses that I didn't think anybody else would have. And I think as the world shrinks and we all have the ability and means to get anything we want whenever we want from whomever we want, because it's such a global economy, I think sometimes it's challenging to remain an individual,
Mm.
because that, I mean, I'm glad you have Gatsby shoes. I'm glad Norris has them, but I don't want to wear them if you two are wearing them. That feels weird. Nor do I want to sit there and coordinate wearing who's wearing what shoes
Sure.
on what day. But again, it's not a question. The data works, the algorithm works, and
Yeah.
like you said, as long as they deliver on the promise of it's a quality piece of footwear or sunglasses or apparel, whatever it is,
Mhm.
it delivers on time and as long as it delivers on all that, I think it's pretty
Yeah.
interesting. Do you have another topic
Well,
or
I
are
actually,
we up
so,
against it? Yeah.
I
Oh,
actually think
more.
it's, yeah, because I think it's fascinating. I think I understand where you're coming from the consumer
Yeah,
perspective, but from the business perspective, it's exactly what you want because they've targeted people
it is.
in different parts of the country who have similar interests, who are
Yep.
friends, who probably, who have gotten
Oh, yeah.
together because you have those things and they've been able to reach you in a way that was meaningful. Dude, that's what we
Sure.
all want in marketing, right?
I'm not looking at it from a
Yeah.
marketing
Yeah,
perspective.
I
From a
get it,
marketing
but like,
perspective, there's zero argument that this shit works and it
yeah,
works well when done well.
yeah,
You're preaching to the converted there. I'm looking at it from the consumer perspective.
yeah.
And again, there probably isn't an issue. I'm probably making an issue out of nothing because hey, it's a podcast. We have time to fill.
Yeah, well, but I'm thinking about this from the brand immerse perspective, right?
Yeah.
So, like, I think that's one of the things that we hear from clients. Well, this place
Yeah.
did that particular, they did a Tumblr, so we can't do a Tumblr or whatever, right?
Right.
And it's like so many times it's like, well, you guys have different audiences and there's different things. Like, we
Right.
can do like Hasseman Marketing did this mug
Yep.
from Bell Promo, so did the
Mm-hmm.
Roscoe because
Mm-hmm.
we both really like this mug and we're both serving different audiences and it doesn't matter
That's what
that
I would
they're the
say.
same.
That's what I was about to say. Different audiences. That's the
Sure,
key.
for a
That's
brand and
the
merch
key.
piece. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for brand merch. All right. Do you have another
Okay.
topic? Are we running on time late? I don't know where we're at. I think
I
we're a
think we're
little.
good.
We got time.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
good. And this one could be pretty quick, I think. So,
Okay.
Google's Gemini ad sparks backlash.
Okay.
And I will tell you, everything sparks backlash now. Google's
Let's
latest
look at where we
advertising
are.
campaign is generating growing backlash. Essentially, I don't know if you've seen this, but there's it's in during the Olympics.
Okay.
During the Olympics, an ad depicts a young female athlete using Google's Gemini artificial
Mm-hmm.
intelligence tool to write a fan letter to this champion hurdler, essentially saying, hey, she has always loved running. And so she loves this particular Sydney McLaughlin Leveron. And so she writes it. She uses Gemini to help her write a fan letter to this
Right.
person. And essentially, critics are saying it's the latest example of big tech company being disconnected from real people and saying that it's technology replacing a child's creative spirit. So I just saw this morning. I thought it was interesting. I have opinions, as I'm guessing you do, but I wanted to hear what you said first.
It sounds dumb. You're complaining about nothing. And here's the thing: I have not seen 1 minute of the Olympics, nor have I seen 1 minute of the ads during the Olympics. So I have not seen this, not aware of it at
Yeah.
all. Based on what you described, lighten up, Francis. Who cares? It's an ad. It is not. It is not a declaration of or an indictment of childhood creativity. So lighten up. I mean, who
Yeah.
cares?
Yeah.
Who cares?
To me,
Who cares?
this is an example of you getting mad because the sky is blue, right?
Correct.
Like, honestly, I actually saw that ad and was like, yeah, that's a really good use of AI to help, help someone formulate their thoughts. And here's newsflash for all the people who are getting pissed off about this. This is how everyone is using AI to
Yeah.
write ads and create posts and do all this stuff. The idea that you're mad about it is just like, you're also
It's
thinking that the
ridiculous.
internet's going to go away. I mean, it is just
Yeah.
like that horse is so far out of the barn. And I thought it was really nice.
Yeah.
Like, so when I saw this, I'm like, of course it's creating backlash because we can't have anything nice anymore because
Well,
everyone is pissed off about everything.
again, everybody's got a platform. And because everybody has a platform, everybody thinks my voice should be louder than everybody else's. And I must share my thoughts. And I'm not sure that's the best thing in the world, but interesting.
Yeah.
Hey, Kirby,
Yeah.
Marketing Genius of the Week. Now, this is something
Oh,
brand new we started 2 weeks in a row. So now it's like we
wow.
have to do it. Kirby hadn't done it yet. Maybe he will. Maybe he won't. Who knows? Who could possibly say? How could I possibly know that? How could anybody possibly know that? But I do have a quick one. I thought this was funny. Kirby, so the Deadpool Wolverine movie is out. I don't know if that's something on your radar that you want to see. If
I
you have
want to
seen
see
it,
it. I have
haven't.
not seen it yet, but I want to
Okay.
see it. Yeah.
It's fine. It'll get to Coshocton sometime in November, no problem. So I love branded merchandise tie-ins. I love branded merchandise tie-ins with movies. There's always very creative stuff. I mean, I could go through a history of people I've worked with. I was never part of it, but saw some of the they worked with movie studios and some of the great merchandise they would come up with, just fantastic. This is one that was interesting. So they have released Xbox controllers that are molded after the characters. So one that looks like
Mm,
Deadpool, one that looks like Wolverine. And if you've seen any of the ads or know Ryan Reynolds, there's almost always a tongue-in-cheek, sarcastic, comedic component to everything he does. And these are no different. You turn the controllers over and they have detachable rear ends. So you can see the rear ends of each character on the back of the controllers. And I just thought, okay, not only is that kind of funny,
mhm.
but it's on brand. It is 1,000%
Yeah.
on brand to the Deadpool movie franchise, to Ryan Reynolds, and to even an extent Hugh Jackman. So I thought that was a really genius tie-in. I'm sure if there's not already, there's going to be a Deadpool Wolverine game. That probably will only be on Xbox, would be my guess.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
I think that anything Ryan Reynolds touches right now is freaking brilliant. We've been talking about him
Yeah.
for a couple years on this podcast.
Oh, yeah.
I think he is the most brilliant marketing mind in business and movies. Like, again, not just movies today. Success after success, and you mentioned him
Yeah.
being authentic and funny and all
Yeah.
that sort of thing, dude. The idea that they had the biggest opening Thursday ever, not a surprise. Good Lord, we've been,
No.
and again, just brilliant, creative over and over. So that by the time, like, I can't wait to see this movie
Yeah,
because
me
it's like
too.
they've done such a good job of promoting it.
Well, once you do, we can talk about it probably at Expo. Be wanting to see it.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, I agree. Ryan Reynolds, absolutely a brilliant marketing mind, but when we're talking about a brilliant strategic services mind, we're talking about the good folks over at Certified Marketing Consultants. That's right. They can help you with acquisition services, business valuations, and private company sales. And they do it all very confidentially. They have decades of industry experience. Jamie Watson and her team over there really would like to help you achieve your growth goals, not only for the remainder of 2024, but beyond that. So, interested in confidential discussion, shoot them an email at info@certifiedmarketing.com, or you can give a call at 260-637-6643. All right, Kirby, thanks again for podcasting. I've got a mess to clean up right over here.